Hey, I'm Johnny from Dma'S, and I'm here chatting with Milky. Basically, when we first started DMAs, we wrote for a couple of years before we released Delete and stuff like that, and we had written maybe around a similar amount of songs or demos or ideas or whatever you want to call them. And so each album that we've made, we've kind of been adding on to this kind of plethora of songs and ideas, and then lots of them get used for a record. And we've kind of had this, it's a good problem to have, but we've kind of had it on every album, and we're just lucky that we got between the three of us, but also with our management and with our label, and we take a lot of time just kind of discussing not necessarily what are the best songs, but I guess what songs will work most appropriately as a full body of work. Mason and I both record a lot, but Tommy not so much. So what I would do is sometimes I'd write maybe even an instrumental track, and I would send it to him and kind of let him use that as stimulus to come up with melodies and ideas and stuff. And also it's so easy these days to be able to print off ideas and print off stems, and for me to send, because I live in Melbourne, to send them up to Sydney for Mason to muck around with them. Or because some songs had been around for a while, like 21 Year Vacancy, which is on the new album, was a country song that I wrote when I was like 20, you know. And then we had another demo that was one of Mason's demos that he'd worked on with Tommy in Sydney, because I'm in Melbourne, and we worked out that this old song that I had and this new song that they'd written that was a part of this 70 demos flowed really well into each other, and then it's kind of became we call it Frankensteining. To be honest, it's all quite different, and obviously we've got multiple songwriters, so we kind of, it's not like there's a overarching theme. Some of them are just, you know, classic love songs, and then others. One thing I always love writing about is change and how people adapt through life as they evolve and they change, and that continuous learning and growing through life. So there's a bit of that going on, I guess. When we did our third album, The Glow, we worked with an amazing producer called Stuart Price, who also worked briefly on this album. We had three producers on this album, actually, Rich Costy, Stuart Price, and Constantine Kirsting, who all brought different things to it. But basically, when we worked just with Stuart on the previous album, I guess we learned a lot from him in seeing his workflow and how he would approach things. And then basically COVID happened when our third album was released, so we had so much time to actually, because it was such a big touring band, so we actually had time to stop and breathe, and lots of these techniques and whatnot were really fresh of how Stuart worked, and so it kind of gave us a bit of freedom to kind of explore some of those ideas and work out what kind of sounds we want to make. And I remember Tommy came down to Melbourne one time, and we worked, and I had an electronic instrumental song, and it ended up becoming the last song on the album, which is this song called Decale, which sounds nothing like you would have heard on an early DMA's record. And I also feel like after we did The Glow, I think there are still new sounds on How Many Dreams, but it's almost like an extension of some of the ideas that we were following on How Many Dreams, on The Glow, and I feel like we've kind of got that out of our system now, so I'm even more excited to start working on the new record and taking a different approach again. I would probably pick three. I really feel like this album covers a lot of what DMAs have done, so I kind of think of DMAs as, we've got the rock and roll songs, well, not rock and roll, but like, you know, guitar driven kind of rock songs. We've got our ballads, and then we've kind of got our dance stuff. So I'd probably pick maybe like Olympia as like maybe one of the rock songs. The ballad would be Forever, and the dance song would be Decale. I think that would give. I'd hope between one of those three songs, you could cater for the person. I think this set list that we've made, especially because we've been able to incorporate a lot of How Many Dreams, there's quite a lot of high tempo songs that we've incorporated from that album, and it's made the live set really, really strong for us, and it's got a really good energy. So, but kind of like what I expressed before, there's going to be a few dancey numbers, there's going to be those big sing-along moments. We've been throwing in our cover of Cher's Believe. Obviously, that was a really important moment for us, winning the Triple J Hottest 100 for like a version. And we're just going to have some fun, basically. We just want people to be able to rock up to the show and, let their hair down, so to speak, and have a good night and sing their lungs out. Well, that's the most important thing for me. One thing I feel like we learnt in COVID was that some musicians are fine with just being working in the studio, and they prefer that. They prefer just doing the creative side of it like that, which I thought maybe I was that artist. And as I got older, the touring wouldn't maybe sit as well with myself. Obviously, just talking about me. Now I'm not speaking for the other guys in the band. One thing I learnt from COVID is that for my soul, I need to be able to play these songs live, and it's the validation and seeing people smiling in the crowd and having a good time. It feels like you're doing something meaningful, and people are enjoying themselves from what you do as a living, and I think that's the most rewarding part of it. The 2 and more shows were pretty special, just because as kids who grew up in Sydney, we've seen so many iconic shows there to be able to do 2 amazing nights there. And I got actually on the second night, my grandpa came to the gig, and he's 84 years old, and I saw him up on the balcony, and I was I go, oh, we've got a special guest in the crowd tonight, my grandpa. He's here. Let's give him a round of applause. And he's a very humble, beautiful, lovely guy. And just for like 2,500 people to stand up and start clapping him, and he stood up and put his arm up. It felt like one of those really special moments. I could see him getting quite emotional about it, so that was really beautiful. Oh, and another thing as well, we've really loved going to the coastal towns. Thurrool was brilliant, Frankston was brilliant, and Torquay were brilliant. We haven't really done that as much with DMAs, and I guess that was the point of this tour, to make the effort to go to places we haven't been, places that maybe more regional areas, and the response from the people at those shows has been really, really amazing. I'm so glad that we did it, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. Well, when I was younger, it was definitely like Bruce Springsteen and Dylan and Neil Young and stuff, Joni Mitchell, Lucinda Williams, and stuff like that. Gillian Welsh I love, and more modern stuff, maybe like the Chemical Brothers, and there's a particular Groove Armada album that I'm obsessed with. And then the more rock and roll stuff, probably like the Jesus and Mary Chain, Stone Roses, and Oasis. Oh, it'd have to be Chemical Brothers. They're just so good, and they're probably my favorite band. Probably like at the moment, Black Light by Groove Armada. It's got it was a collab they did with Nick Lilmore. He wrote and produced a lot of the stuff on it, and it's just a really good mix between like guitars and dance stuff and just like everything I love. Two Hands would be pretty good. Yeah, but that's film, that like soundtrack is already so good. Oh God, yeah, I have some pretty funny ones. Actually, I'm not gonna say that one. I don't know. Sometimes I'm thinking about like. Sometimes I'm just most of the time I'm thinking about just how grateful I am that I can do it, and that people are enjoying it, and that about how lucky I am to have a job like this and to be able to play my music to so many people. That's really kind of what I'm thinking about most of the time. Sometimes I zone out and I go on a tangent, but yeah. Well, the first song that got me into guitar actually was, there was this kid in my class who could play Scar Tissue by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I thought he was so cool. So I went home and I learnt that. It's just because, and that's where I kind of started. Maybe like the Chemical Brothers at Olympic Park. Maybe that, just because the light show was so good. I've seen some great Wilco shows as well. Yeah, I saw Wilco. We were playing a festival in Germany, and I managed to be able to watch them from side of the stage for a bit. And they got a song called Impossible Germany, and I saw Impossible Germany in Germany, and I thought that was pretty cool. Oh, Spice Girl. Oh, God. I'd probably have to ask. I wish Tommy was here. I'd probably have to ask him. I'd probably be like Salty Spice. Oh, Bruce Springsteen. Imagine if Bruce Springsteen did a version of Silver. That would be crazy. If you're listening, Bruce. Oh yeah, I'd love to go to South America. I've never been there. And just speaking to other artists, they say that the festivals and they just love music over there. Everyone in the world loves music, but I heard that they're particularly passionate over there. So yeah, I've never done that. And I'd also really like to do Red Rocks. That's just like whenever I see someone on Instagram or whatever say they're playing Red Rocks, I'm like, oh, that would be a good one to tick. Well, apparently the most influential. Oh no, wait, that's not the word. Not influential, but the most copied musician of all time was Earl Scruggs, who invented before on the banjo it used to be claw hammer style, and then he used, they got the 3 picks now. Now basically everyone in the world who plays banjo the way this guy played banjo. So I think in some ways he is kind of the most influential in a certain way, When you wake up in the morning and you go into the studio, remember what it was like when you were 15 years old and you first fell in love with the magic of songwriting, and to just make that your only goal. Maybe You Don't Know Me by Ray Charles. It's a big question. Well, it's funny because it's funny when anything that was your hobby and your release becomes your job, because they can sometimes kind of get mixed up in this weird world. And so, but it's music to me is just about the cathartic nature of it, about being able to escape, being able to express yourself as well. Yeah, that's what it is for me.